let's talk a minute about Pantone colors. Pantone colors are a different way of doing color, and they're also known as spot colors. Pantone is actually a brand of spot color. The way that spot colors work, and let's talk about why we have to have spot colors. We talked about how when we're sending something to print, we want to work in the CMYK color mode, right? But when we're looking at that on our computer, we're by default looking at RGB. We have to be looking at RGB because that is what we're looking at on a computer screen. And computer screens create RGB. So what that means is when we create something, a specific color on our computer screen, then we go to print it, quite often that color is not exactly what we wanted it to be. And that's they'll do print tests and they'll print off one off of it, look at it, make sure that it's the right color, and when it's not, make little adjustments and do that until it's the way you want it to be, which can be a little bit of a headache. So if you're doing more solid colors and less colors, you can use what's called spot colors. And spot colors, and specifically the Pantone colors, you actually buy a book of swatches from Pantone. Think of it like the swatches when you go to the paint store like Lowe's or Home Depot, and you've got all these different swatches with different colors on them. So you actually pull out your physical book, look and find the color that you want, and that color has a code next to it. Then you come into Photoshop or into Illustrator or InDesign, and you go into your Pantone books in this program, and you find that same code. And that way you know that even if that color doesn't look exactly the way you want it to on the screen, you know what it's going to print like because that you're already looking at physically as a swatch in the book that you have. So that said, the way you find Pantone colors is by coming over and going to the color picker, and then you go to the color libraries. And you'll see we've got a whole bunch of different color libraries here, and a whole section of them are Pantones. So if I wanted to look at Pantone Solid Coated, you'll see here I can slide along this little scale here, and I can see this purple, for example, is 7656C, and I would know that would match up exactly with the 7656C in my Pantone color book. So that's Pantone. That's another type of color that we work with, depending on the type of job that you're doing. Now, another way that we have to look at colors is our swatches. If you go over here and click on swatches, we've got a library of swatches all set there, but there's a lot more libraries here available. I can click on the menu, and I've got some libraries that I can load into my swatches, including the Pantone libraries right there. I can load new swatches. I can save if I've created a color here that I want to save. I can click on that and I can save it as a swatch. And so the swatches are basically a way to do just a single click to get to the color that we want it to get to. So I can click on this right here and it would name that swatch black because that's what I'm on right now, but you get the point. Now, once we've found the colors we want, we again set them as our background color or our foreground color. And just like we've been working with the brushes and things, to switch between the background color and the foreground color, we just tap X on the keyboard. So if I set my foreground color as kind of a blue here and my background color as a red, you'll see that now I can come and paint with my blue and then tap X and I'm painting with my red. So that's the color picker, and that's switching between those colors. Now, we also do have what's called the Eyedropper Tool. The Eyedropper Tool allows us to sample a color within an image. This can be very useful if you're working with a photograph. So, for example, let's go ahead and open that same Thanksgiving picture we've been working with. I could go to my Eyedropper Tool, and the keyboard shortcut for that is I. And I can come here and I can say, I want this exact green from the tablecloth. And when I click that, you'll see that green has turned into my foreground color. So now I could paint with it. I could retouch things with it. I have that exact color. Very useful when you're doing things like retouching. You can sample the color that you want to fill it in with. Now, another thing that we can do with color, obviously we've got the color adjustments that we've already looked at, and we'll look at them a little bit more later. But another thing that we can do with color is we can turn these into what are called duotone images. And that means that you're creating the image out of only 2 colors. So this is a full color image. If I wanted to change this to be a duotone image, I would come up to Image and Mode, and the first thing I would need to do is change this to grayscale. You have to be on grayscale first in order to be a duotone image. So I'm going to click on that, and you'll see that it's going to discard the color information and turn this into a black and white image. At that point, I can go up to Image again and Mode, and you'll see that I have the option for duotone. And here in duotone, I can decide, it's actually a little bit of a misnomer because I can do monotone, duotone, tritone, or quadtone. This is how many colors you can use. So duotone is using 2 colors, quadtone is using 4 colors, so on and so forth. I'm going to go to duotone, and I'm going to say I want this entire thing to be in this red and in a dark gray. And you see the whole image is in those colors now. Now this is often done for print tests and things of that nature. If I go to a quad tone, then I can allow it to put in a couple of other colors. That's set that way too dark, but you get the point. So that's another thing I can do as far as color. I can limit the amount of colors that it's allowed to use within a particular image. So that's color in Photoshop. A lot of what we do with color in Photoshop is adjustments rather than setting exact colors. And as we get into our later videos on image manipulation specifically, which is our next video, we'll see ways that we can use these colors to help with our images.